Welcome to the 10-Minute Treasure. My name is Jeff Pospisil. Recently I've been looking at the tax consequences to a pastor's housing. So I've been looking at the cash housing allowance and the housing exclusion. And also now I'm going to look at the parsonage. And this is interesting. Did you know that for self-employment purposes, so Social Security and Medicare, a pastor has to pay taxes on the value of the fair rental value of their parsonage? So that's what we're going to look at. How do you even come up with that amount? So I'm going to use this as my background, a ballpark, because all I want to do is help you get in the ballpark, because this is a very gray area and not black and white. So first thing is there's some guidance out there that you take whatever the market value is and multiply it by 12%, and that equals roughly the fair rental value. And this is accurate for some, but it's also not accurate for others. And one place you could look, by the way, for the for the market value would be on Zillow. And you might not be able to find your parsonage there, but you could probably find a comparable house in your community there, and you can pull them up. And that would give you something at least to base your decision on. So let's go ahead and look at Zillow. All right, so back when I very first moved to Mitchell, South Dakota, I lived in a parsonage, and it was at this address. And so what I'm just going to do is I just Googled Zillow, my address, 1421 Pebble Beach Drive, Mitchell, South Dakota. And then it brings me to this link, and I just opened that in another tab. And you can see that the market is, value, the Zestimate is what they call it, is 306,200. And to me, that seems a little bit high. Housing prices have been booming in our area, but you punch that in, 306,200, multiply it by 12%, $36,000. So we're talking about $3,000 in rent a month. That seems a little unreasonable. So they do have this rent Zestimate, and I like that. So that gets me a little bit more into what the ballpark that I would actually think is appropriate. So let's go ahead and look at one more. I'm just going to pull one up from Salem. This is not the actual parsonage address in Salem, but again, kind of high. Housing is going crazy. So 252,000 times 0.12, that gets us over to $30,000. Renting a house for $30,000, that seems again a little high. That rent estimate. That does seem a little bit closer. That 1335, I'll multiply that by 12 and I get 16,000. Again, that seems a little bit more in line with what I might expect when I go actually try to look to rent a house. So that's what Zillow looks like, and I do appreciate that estimate, that rent estimate. Sometimes the market price might actually help, but most of the time it's that rent estimate. So other things to consider to get you into that ballpark would be similar rentals in town. So if you know somebody that has some rental properties, you can ask them. Sometimes our churches, they've actually rented out their parsonage not that long ago. So what did you charge in rent when you rented it out? Or maybe that's even a question. If we were to rent this out, what would we charge? So that does let you think about this from a slightly different angle. Again, that's not going to get you a very specific number, but at least if you're able to like document that conversation and say, if a landlord was saying, if I was renting out your house, I would charge this. Again, it's better than nothing. Or if you find a comparable property that's being rented out, you can also use that as documentation. All right, this is pretty short and sweet. By the way, I really appreciate Zillow. I'm going to link to them because those rent estimates or Zestimates, I think that's kind of priceless. And again, this is a ministry of the Finance Office of the Dakotas Conference, as well as the Dakotas Minnesota Methodist Foundations. And you can find a lot more of our stuff online. Until next time, God bless.